What is up, guys? Rick is here, keeping you up to date with the latest Destiny 2 news and information. And today we've got some very interesting Destiny 2 PvP topics to talk about. Now, this information is coming from an article on the Daily Star, where they interviewed Crucible lead design in Destiny 2, Lars Bakken. That'll of course be linked in the description down below if you want to check it out. But some of the stuff they talked about that really stood out to me was, firstly, they talked a little bit about the all-new Trials of Osiris game mode. Secondly, they talked about the possibility of a Destiny 2 PTR, or public test realm, similar to games like Battlefield. And then lastly, they talked about esports and Destiny 2 as a potential esports game. Well, let's get started on these different topics by discussing firstly what was talked about with the new Trials of Osiris game mode. Now, the beginning of the article was really just talking about the change in the Crucible to 4v4, how everything is becoming 4v4 and what that means for the game, and also talking about, alright, what are you going to do for Rumble, what are you going to do for Clash, and then Lars saying, well, those are just gone. In the future, we may be able to revisit them, but right now, those game modes really aren't there. And also, it's just going to change the dynamic of the Crucible so much, but also insisting that this change is positive, that people will end up really liking the 4v4 change. Now, I mention this because that leads right in to the Trials of Osiris question, with the question being, quote, "So you've reworked Trials, which is now 4v4, but how does that change the dynamic?" Lars then responds, quote, "Trials is different. I am not going to talk too much about any of the nuances of what's different, but it's coming back, and the biggest change is the 4v4 change." Well, there are other changes there too, but I believe people will be blown away when they see the trial stuff. I wish I could talk more about it. So firstly, this absolutely confirms that Trials of Osiris is 4v4, with Lars literally saying the biggest change is the 4v4 change. I mention that because although it was very much assumed that the new Trials would be 4v4, this is actually the first outright confirmation we have of that. So for anyone out there who is saying, well, it might be 3v3, nope, absolutely 4v4. It was interesting that he said the biggest change was the 4v4 change, and then kind of catches himself and says, well, no, there's other changes too. But that to me says that, you know, Trials, or the new Destiny 2 Trials, will still maintain the same aspect as it did in Destiny 1, in the sense that it's going to be elimination, right? You're going to have to get a certain amount of wins to get a good prize, all of that stuff. If the biggest change is the 4v4 change, it likely means that a lot of the other things are staying somewhat similar. Of course, you know, he then goes on to say, you guys gotta see, like, all the different stuff we've done, so I assume there's gonna be a lot really just cool stuff that have been implemented in Destiny 2, just streamlining the process. And in fact, we know from earlier news that it's no longer called Trials of Osiris, and it's now apparently called Trials of the Nine. So that's going to be a whole different dynamic, a whole different style of loot and rewards that you're getting if Osiris isn't involved, but if the Nine are involved instead, which is very, very cool. Now, moving on from there, Lars is asked if Bungie would ever consider implementing a Destiny 2 PTR, public test realm, especially now that they have PC capabilities with Destiny 2 finally coming to the PC. Now, for those of you maybe unaware, PTRs have been pretty darn useful for those few games that have implemented them. Most notably, Battlefield implements a Battlefield PTR. It's somewhere where you can sign up for, go in, and play things earlier than the DLC. For example, in the Battlefield 1 PTR, the new DLC guns for the DLC that hasn't yet arrived yet are available to play with and test. Therefore, the developers can get feedback, and when they actually introduce these weapons for all platforms, they will be hopefully much better balanced than if DICE, the Battlefield devs, had tried to do everything internally. Another huge game that has a PTR is Overwatch, with the same goal. People can again sign up for the PTR early, try things early, and so when it's released to all platforms for the public, it can be much better balanced. Now Lars responds to this question by saying, quote, "I can say that internally we do that already. Whether we decide to do a public one, I am not sure. There is no way to release a game like Destiny without having played it in a realistic environment, and in order for us to be confident in it and all the systems, we have to play it in that real space. So, while we do have those things for our development of the game, whether we open it up to the public, I don't know. Like, maybe we just don't know." The interviewer then asks, "I'm sure it's no doubt complicated, but surely it would be also really beneficial to open that up." Lars responds, "I mean, I'd have to think about it. Obviously, the benefits are people would get to see stuff early, and we would get feedback on it. But like, you know, the downside is, it is complex enough to run a game like Destiny just with the team that we have without also running another duplicate version of Destiny that's in the future. It's a lot of work. So it's like, what's the best thing for the game? I don't know. I can't answer that question. It might be that we do something like this, but also it might not be the right thing for Destiny and the extra stress on the team." So, there's the answer, I guess. It seems like he's very, very unsure of himself and the answer. It looks really like Bungie is considering PTRs for Destiny. He wouldn't waffle around that much if they had decided that no, that's not something that they're interested in, it's just not feasible. But he's clearly talking about, yeah, you know, we might implement that in the future, but it also is a lot of extra stress on the team, having an entirely different version of Destiny in the future and so on. So it's not something that I would say is even likely to come to Destiny, but rather just possible. Keep that in mind, and guys, if you do want to see, if you're coming from an Overwatch or a Battlefield background and you do want to see a PTR for Destiny 2, tell Bungie, tweet at them, you know, make forum posts, make Reddit posts, whatever, to let them know that's something the community wants. If no one wants it, of course they won't implement it. And moving on from there, the last question is about MLG Destiny. Whether or not Destiny will finally get its time to shine as an esports game. The question being, quote, "A lot of the changes around the Crucible seem to be about making it more competitive and having a more focused 4v4 game. Is there a chance that we see Destiny 2 in any sort of esports environment? It's certainly more formatted for that scene than what it was before." And that's absolutely a great question, and what the interviewer is saying is absolutely correct. With all of these changes streamlining the heck out of the PvP experience, it's just begging for a proper esports introduction. Lars responding, "That is a great question. I think Bungie has a long tradition of being active in the competitive realm, starting way back in our previous games and Halo. It's something that we talk about a lot, but I also think the esports scene is really interesting, and I think players choose where they want to spend their time, and they like to choose and support the games that they love. If they decided Destiny is a space that they want to love and prop up in that way, then that's something we think we are interested in. But yes, I don't want to presume that it is from the beginning. Yes, we want to make the game feel more comfortable in a tournament setting. That was one of our goals, but that doesn't mean that we go straight to like a world championships. I wish I could give you a definitive answer more than that, but I think the reality is we want people to feel comfortable there first, and if that's something that they want, and we have the ability to support it, then we'd love to support it. But if not, we're just happy to have the game too. So essentially, Lars is outright saying, yeah, esports would definitely be something Bungie would support if there's a fan desire for it. But he's leaving it up to the fans to prop it up and have that interest and that desire to make Destiny 2 a proper esports game. And that makes a lot of sense. If Bungie was just pushing this narrative and they said Destiny 2 is gonna be an esports game and they threw these big tournaments, but the interest from the community just wasn't there, it would flop. It does make more sense to have a natural growth, to have the community organize maybe the starts of some things and then Bungie start to sponsor those organizations and to start sponsoring some teams and so on, and then help that natural growth get Destiny 2 to a proper esports game. And we're starting to see that already. At DestinyCon 2017, there was a fan-organized PvP tournament that went quite well. That is exactly the type of thing that Bungie should be looking to support if they want esports to grow more naturally. And so guys, that is it for the Destiny 2 PvP news for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this new information about PvP. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.